Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Unapologetically Woman. We're celebrating phenomenal women all across Kentucky who make no apologies for their perspectives or the impacts that they're making in the community. Today, we're celebrating Darlene Thomas, who is unapologetically advocating for the protection of others. Darlene is a leader, an advocate, and she has dedicated her life to helping survivors of domestic violence across central Kentucky. Unapologetically Woman, Darlene Thomas, that's you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so excited to be celebrating you and the work that you do. So tell us about Greenhouse 17. You're the founder and executive director there.
Well, yes, but all things kind of happen in the flow of the world if you just trust the universe a little bit. But I started the work, doing this work about 32 years ago in Western Kentucky and then Louisville. And then there was this opportunity for Central Kentucky to start a brand new program. So fortunately, a community group hired me, and voila, Greenhouse 17 was born about 17 years ago. So, it's an exciting program. It's out in the country. It's a 40-acre farm. It's unique. It's the only program that I know of in the nation that kind of does the way we do the work. So we have emergency shelter, which is a typical domestic violence program. But we also run some cottage industries and capitalize on our farm. So we grow flowers and we make products that survivors have created and marketed and are a part of. And so we really believe that it's our job to kind of help survivors move from crisis to self-sufficiency based on their own journey, not on what we think they should be doing,
Right.
but on what they want to have to be able to get to their next goal. So, it's not a cookie cutter organization. It truly works to meet people where they are and in all the ways that their lives have intersected to figure out what their next steps are going to be.
So how many women do you guys help a year?
About 7,000 to 8,000. And we serve men, women, and children are also about 50% of our population,
Right.
especially in shelter. But majorly it is women. About 98% of what we serve are females who have been victimized by an intimate partner. It's about 7,000 a year that we serve throughout the 17 counties in central Kentucky. And then we house right around 300. That means day in and day out, shelter's full.
And so how long might somebody stay in the shelter?
It really depends. Again, some people need it for a few days until maybe other things are put in place, like a protective order, or we're able to help change locks or get them back. The goal is to keep people safely in their community. That's the real goal. Like their kids need their school, and they need their work, and they need to have their family and resources or faith around them when at all possible. But when not, then that's what shelter would be for. When there's no other safety mechanism, then shelter is a way to do that until we can figure out what the next steps need to be and how to kind of get back your footing and take back your power as a survivor and figure out what those next steps will be. And so some people are there 6 months. Some are 9.
And so do you think that the organic forms that you guys have, that those are therapeutic?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the University of Kentucky is researching it. We're in our 3rd year of researching to determine what the real impact is on your health and your mental health and healing from trauma. So we believe so. Anecdotally, right now, it looks really promising, but I guess we'll see what the research holds for sure. But what I find incredible is the engagement. People just start working their way. Even folks who haven't been grown up on farms or not been around rural areas, more city dwellers, they love the farm. The kids are running and playing and riding bicycles and climbing fences and feeding the horses. And next thing you know, moms are kind of out there and weeding and picking flowers and putting them on tables in shelter, and it just becomes this organic way for people to quietly process trauma in their lives and to feel better and to know. I really believe the only way to work towards healing for most survivors is to know that they belong to something bigger than themselves. Right? And so when you're producing, when you're productive, when you're out on that farm, or you're helping make products and you're making them and packaging them and boxing them for delivery kind of
because you guys sell some of the products.
We do.
Correct?
We sell our products yes, and we have some, different stores that hold them. And
what are some of your products that
well,
people
we make
might
body products. So we make soaps, amazing soaps. We just switched to cold press. I can't tell you I'm an expert in all this. That's why I have amazing staff and residents who kind of figure it out. But they come up with the recipes. They're really healthy. We use very healthy materials in our soaps. We grow a lot of the flowers that then are used for part of the scents in the soap. So it's trying to take the process through. So we do soaps and lip balms and bath salts and things like that. And candles. People love our candles.
Love candles.
We sell Hope boxes where people can buy a set.
How can, if people wanted to buy and support Greenhouse 17, what would they need to do to find out more about these products
Well,
that
it's
you
really
have?
easy. Our website, greenhouse17.org, will pretty much take you everywhere. It'll tell you stories of survivors and what the farm has meant to them and having an opportunity to earn some income. We're the only shelter that I know of in the nation that actually will pay stipends to families who live with us. So intimate partner violence has a lot to do with economic justice as well, and being able to have your own money and income until you're
That
able to get a job and
independence
start
and-
again, and independence and know that you can and that you are worthy
And getting that power back.
yes.
Getting that power back.
Greenhouse 17 is this amazing place where staff get to capitalize on their strengths to come to work every day. So everything looks different. This summer we're having concert series because several of the staff know people who are in bands or play guitar, and they're coming out every Thursday to play music. And we have a theater outdoors, and but all of that's been created by staff and residents working together to tell us what they need. So it's definitely not a one-stop shop, and it always is ebbing and flowing depending on the strengths of the residents or the staff at the time.
And so, working with domestic violence, this has been your life's work. You didn't just start at Greenhouse 17.
No.
How did you get on this path? How did you start down this road?
Oh, I graduated from college. Very fortunate to have been able to go to college. And when I graduated, my undergraduate was sociology and women and minority studies. So that was my emphasis. And a friend called me and said they were hiring at the Spouse Abuse Center, because that's what they were called back then. They're hiring at that Spouse Abuse Center, that Spouse Abuse shelter. And I'm like, what the world is
She's
Spouse
trying to
Abuse
find you a
shelter?
job.
She was trying to find me a job. And they were hiring, and I didn't even know. I thought, how do you go through, undergraduate degree talking about women and minority issues and nobody ever talking about intimate partner violence, because it was not really discussed as a primary issue for women, which is ironic. But I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
And fortunately, I was pretty young, fresh out of school, and
All
amazing
energetic.
women mentors. Yeah, well, I was going to fix and change the whole world, right? Like we all are.
Yep.
And but I think the biggest thing is that there were women who took a risk. They took a shot with me and mentored me and coached me and sat on me, because I'm pretty sure I thought I was too big for my britches a lot of times, and they didn't let me be. They didn't let me be. They made me figure out what it meant to be in this work, and that it was much bigger than me.
Than you. And so do you now in turn turn around, since someone mentored you, are you now a mentor to other people?
I hope so. I hope so. That is my job. I'm pretty realistic. I kind of know that when it's been 30 plus years, right? When I wind out of this work, my only hope is that the impact that I've had is on the people who have touched me, or I've touched them in some way in this journey. That's it. Because beyond that, we're really, that's our time. That's
Well,
our time.
but
That's
you
the
know-
best we can hope for.
Well, and
right?
you know, sometimes you help people in ways that you don't even realize that they have not even brought to your attention,
It's true.
that they still hold in their heart.
It is true. So I try to walk in the world. I kind of absorb people's phenomenal. That's what I do. I find people's strengths and absorb them. And sometimes I try to avoid sometimes we learn what not to do, right? Yes.
Those are the
But
best lessons.
Those are very good lessons. On the other hand, just to absorb the strength and the courage around me, I never take advantage of that. My core is survivors and their strength and their courage, and that's kind of what I carry, and that's what I try to teach and help other, people in the field that want to do this work or can see themselves doing it for a long time. I hope I'm always reaching back because when we leave, who's going to take it?
That's right.
It's, you want people who believe that every survivor is worthy of our time and love and dignity until they learn that they're worthy
of it for
Mhm.
themselves.
That's right.
And so this, Darlene, this is hard work that you do. This is emotionally hard work. How do you handle the emotional strain of it, so to speak, and self-care, honestly?
Well, I play as hard as I work, probably. So, I'm one of those individuals.
What are you playing? What do you do?
I ride motorcycle.
Uh-huh.
I do dabble with the guitar. I do love music.
Dabble with the guitar, not from what I've seen.
I
don't
just
know
really
if you call that a dabble.
It's dabble. But those are
It looks
things
like a
that
band
kind of
to
fill
me.
me, right? But I have to say that early on, it probably had more of an impact emotionally than today. Today I'm able to find the strength and the value and just meet people where they are. And I also know where I end and they begin, which is not always true when you're young in the field, right?
That's
you have
right.
a tendency to carry,
Absorb it all.
Yes, you really do. And it changes you. And you have to learn to integrate the pain and suffering of others. But you also know that you're not a part of the outcome. Every individual is a part of their own outcome. And that's what we're encouraging, right? Is for people to find their outcomes.
That's
not
right.
ours.
Because it's what they need for them and not what you want for them.
Right.
I would think that line might be hard to navigate sometimes.
Well, you want for them, and there's that honest integrity relationship. Like I want this for you, like
I
you
want
could
this so
do
bad.
these things. But I want what you want for you even more.
That's right.
Until you find what you want for you, and sometimes you just have to step back and let the process go. Now I've done this work long enough that I've had those moments of going, okay, I think what we do is right. It works. Because 5 years later, somebody will say, oh my gosh, that changed my life. Or, I was doing a training in Northern Kentucky the other day, and a staff member from that program said to me that to this day, I still use those lessons that I learned from you like 5 years ago. And so you do see that, okay, I do believe every interaction we have has an impact with another human being, no matter what that looks like. So,
Good, bad, it does.
yes,
Absolutely.
it does. And so
It
my
does.
goal is to be pretty good for the most part.
Well, good, and I think
That's my goal.
you're doing it. I think you're doing it. So, but Greenhouse 17, that's not the only thing that you do. You sit on a lot of boards, right? So, talk to us about some of the boards that you sit on. Maybe the Housing and Homelessness Board.
Well, yeah, I sit on that board, and I sit on the Kentucky Coalition Against Domestic
Why
Violence.
did you
the
choose to
state
sit
board.
on that board, on the Housing?
Well, because there's a lot. Domestic violence survivors in shelter are considered homeless. That's one reason. There is a lot of homelessness among domestic violence survivors who may not need safety but have found themselves homeless, that are interacting with the homeless system in our communities. So I felt it was important that the board be able to see through the lens that not every woman and child that's going to shelter is just homeless. They come with multitudes of factors that are happening in their lives and issues. And one of the primary issues is intimate partner violence. That if we're not assessing and dealing with and understanding, then survivors have a tendency to repeat homelessness. So it felt important to be a part of that board. And then I'm on the state coalition board, which is important to me because it impacts policy.
What kind of work do they do?
Well, the State Coalition is a technical assistance kind of organization to all the domestic violence programs across the state. There's 15 of us. Okay. There's one in every area development district, and I've been a part of that board for 27 years, probably, a really long time. And I'm currently the legislative chair and have been past president, things like that. But the reason I find that board particularly helpful is the statewide impact, as well as policy. In order to change things, to make
that need to be
better system for survivors to be able to move from crisis to self-sufficiency effectively without fear, and feel protected during that process. So,
and
got to be at the table.
Well, if you're not at the table, sometimes they say you're on the menu. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But
I think there's truth in that statement for sure.
Okay, so you want to make sure that your impact is far-reaching. You talked about being a trainer, that you trained at Northern Kentucky, but you're also an adjunct professor as well. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I did that.
You did that?
Yeah, I did that, and not currently. It's not enough time, although it's something I would like to do. I really, probably other than the survivors, my office is smack dab in the middle of a shelter, right? I need to be around survivors. It's what keeps me rooted in what I do and why I do it. And the calling wasn't to be an executive director of anything. The calling was really to work with survivors in partnership to figure out how to help continue to change systems to better serve them and protect them. That's always been my bottom line. And so a part of that, I did teach for UK for a short moment in my life, but I love it. I love teaching. Young people they teach me, honestly. They probably taught me more than I taught them. They may not know that, but I love it. I love training and coaching, and I think it's important to know our history, what that's looked like in the field of intimate partner violence, and predominantly started by women. In the state of Kentucky, it was displaced homemakers were the first shelter advocates.
Wow.
When the first shelter opened in Louisville, Kentucky. And there was no money except for federal dollars to get displaced homemakers back to work. So that's who started our work in this state, right? And those stories are important because, it's not about education or not. It's about being in service to others.
That's right. I agree with you on that.
Right, yeah.
And so, you've been a keynote speaker. That's one of the things that you've done in the past, too. You want to...
I have. Those things make me a nervous wreck.
Do they?
Oh, my gosh. Yes. I'm always nervous about being able to articulate. It's harder to be succinct. It's much easier to sit here and have a conversation with you, right? But then when you're keynote, it's, you've got those 15 minutes or 30
everybody's
minutes
looking
or
at
45.
you to be that expert, yes.
And, they want that succinct message that comes full circle in the end. It's quite humbling to be asked to be keynote and to talk about this work and this movement and the impact on survivors. So I think the pressure isn't the audience. The pressure for me is to make sure I have done due diligence for survivors.
Right.
Because if they haven't found their voice yet, then it's kind of my job as an advocate. An advocate is a mouthpiece, right?
Keep talking and keep doing it. That's right.
You have to keep doing it, even when it's not popular, or even when people didn't want to hear it, and even when you fail at it sometimes. You just got to keep on, because you have to. Who's going to do it if not you, right?
That's right.
Survivors deserve
if not you,
that
who?
voice. That's right. If not us, then who?
That's right.
We have to keep standing up for folks.
And so one of the things that you said is that you just have to keep trying, even if you fail. What I want and hope that women understand is you're not going to always get it right.
No.
How many times have you failed before?
I try not to count. It might be a little depressing if I started taking count.
But too many times to count.
Many times.
Yeah.
And I don't, like survivors will go, oh, I feel like a failure. And I go, no, that we're learning. We're learning every time that to not try is to have failed. So I try to take what I've not been successful with always, or maybe wish I could have redone a little bit differently, as a learning experience. Like I try to practice what I preach. And then if I take that as a learning experience, then I can keep building on it. But I also will say that you just don't quit trying. And I had to learn that with the legislature. You just have to keep going back. But you feel the heaviness of it when something doesn't pass or help. For years we tried to get dating violence passed. And I think finally 7 years later it passed. It's for me, every session I'd go to Frankfurt and go, and there's a whole group of people in the state who are not safe because I'm not able to either articulate or impress enough upon this legislature. So when we fail, people are hurt by that. Sometimes.
Do you hold that personally?
I mean, I know I don't control it. I don't have that power.
Right,
There's not arrogance in it, but I feel the weight of it. I feel the weight of it because every time something, dating violence didn't pass, then it was all of these young people who weren't married or had a child or were living together, or anybody, not even young people, who were in violent relationships couldn't get the same protection as somebody who was
else.
Married and living together or had a child together. And those are those biases, that lens of what people think intimate partner is. And, they still called it spouse abuse. And we know domestic violence really doesn't care if you're married or not, or have a child.
If you have a ring on your finger, it doesn't matter.
No.
It does not matter. But 7 years, that's, you did not give up. That's great.
Well, not just me, but a whole host of advocates across the state did not give up. And it took so many to convince the legislature. But there are many bills that have happened that way. You just have to keep, being true.
Well, your spirit of not giving up, let me tell you what we saw that someone said about you. Darlene has a big heart and is stubbornly independent because she's almost always right. LOL. What do you think about that when you hear it? She said, you're almost always right.
Almost right.
Uh-huh.
I hope people perceive me as having a big heart and being independent in that sense. Yeah, I do believe I could see where people might say that about me, and it's not that I'm right. I really trust my instincts and my gut, and more than anything, I trust survivors. So when I'm going to go to the mat, I believe in it wholeheartely. I'm pretty open. I can learn other ways to do things. I can hear other opinions, and maybe learn a whole lot. Like I'm open to that. But boy, I can dig my heels in. Absolutely.
Well, you've got to be. If you're an advocate, you have to be a little bit determined and stubborn.
Right.
Now,
I'm
that's
very
okay.
stubborn, and I do think I'm for the right causes, for the right reasons.
Well, I'm glad you're in the right place at the right time. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad. And thank you for letting us celebrate you today. I'm going to leave you with the last word on anything for girls and young women that may be watching.
I think that it is so important for us to model and show, and for every young girl and woman to know their worth. And unfortunately, the world teaches us that we have less value based on our skin color, our gender, you name it. There's this sense of not being worthy of all that the world has to offer. And we have to continually lift young girls and women up to know their worth and to know that they are loved and worthy of love, and to know that really the sky's the limit as long as we're together in it. We have to stick together. Women have to take care of each other.
Thank you so much. Sticking together, you heard it from Darlene Thomas. Continue to join us as we celebrate other phenomenal women just like Darlene all across Kentucky who are making amazing strides in the community. I'll see you guys next time.